A very warm welcome to everyone joining today. Today, we will be talking about identity, governance, and administration. Around 3 weeks back, I attended the Gartner's IAM Summit. And what I figured out after listening to all the sessions there, the keynotes, that the biggest challenge today's organizations are facing are to be able to manage user identities and their access effectively. So, in this kind of situation, the only solution that we have is identity governance administration to take the center stage. Now, as digitization will increase, this will essentially mean that there'll be more devices connected to the internet, there'll be excessive users, and large amounts of data that will be spread across on premises or remote environments or on cloud. All of this will make it very challenging to manage user identities and access in such a complex environment. Now, additionally, if users have unnecessary access or excessive access to data, applications, and systems, it'll again increase security risks and it'll make organizations more vulnerable to data breaches and cyber attacks and whatnot. I'm Dibanjali Ghosh. I'm a technical evangelist associated with Manage Engine, and today we will be talking about IGA and how it can help you to foolproof your enterprise security. Now, before we start, let's take a quick look at the agenda for this webinar. To begin with, we'll be discussing the global rise in cyber attacks and the new rise of identity based cyber attacks. Then, we'll discuss about IGA in terms of what it is, how it works, and most importantly, why organizations need IGA in the first place. After that, we'll move on to discuss the most important part of this webinar, where I'll give you a checklist of five crucial IGA capabilities that you must deploy in your organizations right away. We'll also be discussing why these five IGA capabilities are a must have, and towards the end, I'll tell you how Manage Engine's IGA solution, AD Manager Plus, can help you with implementing these five must have IGA capabilities. So, let's get in. Now, over the past few years, technology as we know it has gone through some super fast phases of development. Cloud adoption, rise in SaaS applications, hybrid workplace model. As much as the distance and barriers have been broken, businesses have become extremely exposed or vulnerable to a lot of complex cyber threats, and cyber criminals are exploiting the latest technologies. They're developing sophisticated tools and techniques to gain access to corporate networks. Now, even the statistics, if you like, just take a quick look at it, around 3 out of 4 organizations have fallen victim to a ransomware attack. And out of this, 64% of affected companies paid the ransom, but nearly 40% weren't able to recover their data. Now, such heavy losses for businesses, financial losses, loss of customers, and most importantly, loss of the brand image, which almost can never be recovered. So, if you can just understand the situation, the statistics, the cyber attacks these days are quite scary, and we have to, do something about it. Now, if we take a good look at the common, repeatedly happening cyber attacks around us, we'll find one common element in most of them, which is identities. Even with so many security practices, technological prevention, how do cyber attackers find their way into our corporate network? This is the $1 million question that all organizations are asking right now. But the answer is quite simple. They actually use the easiest way in, which is your corporate identities. Now, before all the remote work era, there existed defined corporate perimeters, and user could only log in using the office network. Work machines were used inside the perimeter, the hours were defined, but such traditional authentication methods simply relied on just usernames and passwords, and that worked for them. But now, with the whole hybrid work scenario, extensive cloud based operation, we have employees logging in from all corners of the world using their own devices under the BYOD policies. Bring your own device policies. Now, as much as this drives productivity, the corporate perimeter has become practically non existent, and it basically resides wherever the user is logging in from. This means one thing, that the identity has become the new perimeter, and the cyber attackers are very well aware of this. They know that the very obvious security gap lies here, and they are readily exploiting it. Now, if you could quickly brush up on your memory during the pandemic period when we were forced to work from home at all times, every piece of fancy technology that we used in our daily lives was authenticated in one form or the another using our identity. I'll give you a simple example. When you pick up your work laptop to log in each day for work, the user credentials that you use to log into your work is your identity. Now, similarly, your email addresses are another form of your identity, and such elements of personal identity are used by cyber attackers to penetrate the corporate or business networks. Now, for instance, if your laptop credentials are stolen or lost and your device is misused, it becomes a credential theft attack. Now, similarly, if you received a phishing email over your email address and you proceeded to click on that, maybe it said that you've won like $1 million prize or something, the attacker gains entry into the corporate network using your verified email address. Not only such straightforward attacks, but even the more complicated cyber attacks that are carried out using credential stuffing or password spraying are also identity based cyber attacks in some form or the other. I'll just elaborate a little bit on this. For instance, in credential stuffing, what happens is that the cyber attacker basically gets a super large list of user credentials from any password dump site or from a breached website or even from the dark web. Now, after getting the credentials, the attacker tests the stolen credentials on several other websites. Now, in an ideal scenario where all of us are cautious with our passwords, we use phrases rather than words, along with a mix of numbers, symbols, and we make it more secure. Or, most important, we don't reuse the same password on multiple sites. This technique will not work. But since that is not the case, and most people tend to reuse passwords across multiple websites and platforms, this attack can very much happen to any of us. In fact, I'll tell you a quick stat. An average American internet user has approximately 150 online accounts, and very understandable that selecting unique passwords for 150 different websites or platforms is simply next to impossible. This is why most passwords are duplicates, and this password fatigue is what leads to one of the major security risks. Another very common type of identity based cyber attack is password spraying. So, it's actually a type of brute force attack that's becoming very, popular everywhere. In password spraying, what happens is that the cyber attacker chooses one single common password and uses the same password along with multiple users of a particular site. What the attacker does here is, by trying to log into multiple accounts at the same time instead of just one, not only the chances of breaking in increase, but the attacker can also possibly avoid detection. So, if you're thinking about what even are the odds of succeeding in this, let me tell you that the odds are actually pretty good here. I'll give you an example. Password 1 has appeared in data breaches more than 2.3 million times. So, yes, your users are not really that creative with their passwords, and that is precisely why identity based cyber attacks are becoming very common these days. Now, all these identity based cyber attacks, they are a grim reminder that we need to amp up our identity security. Identity based security is a type of cybersecurity which entirely focuses on defining the security based on the authentication of an individual's identity. So, this way, no matter if your laptop is lost or your credentials are stolen, a person can gain access to the business resources only if the identity of the person is proven. But let's remember that this goes much beyond mere username and password combo. This ensures that users of different digital services are authorized and entitled to what they receive, and it also involves the authentication of every identity before such users can be allowed to access privileged assets. And most importantly, it provides a structure for how such identities can be audited to make sure that every base is covered. And in future, identity will definitely become the core of security, and it is necessary to form our IAM strategies around it. The ideas behind this is very simple. All we have to do is make sure that only the right people have the right level of access to the right resources. Now, as an additional layer of precaution, we can probably also add the right time or the right access method to achieve this. And organizations have to start authenticating user identities in accordance to the zero trust principles. Not only that, least privilege access method must also be deployed with zero trust, so that in spite of all the identification methods, no user must have access to a resource for which the person has no requirement. Access to organizational resources must be provided only on a need to know basis, and this way we can prevent unauthorized access at the root itself. So, we need to establish an identity based security strategy in our organization. I think that's a given. And one of the most important framework that you must deploy is identity governance and administration, which is also known as IGA. IGA basically enables IT administrators to manage the user identities more effectively or monitor their access rights. Now, as an organization grows bigger and bigger, it becomes difficult to keep a track on every single identity. And as the number of identities keep growing, you can often lose visibility into what is happening. And to prevent this, IGA improves the visibility into every single user identity, including their access rights, and in turn, this will also help your IT administrators to implement the necessary controls to prevent any unauthorized access. So that's with the what of IGA. Now I'll tell you, why would an organization need IGA in the first place? With hybrid workforce, it's becoming, the new normal, and all your employees are going to be working from multiple locations on a regular basis. This means that there are going to be even more devices and more users and much more data for your IT administrators to monitor and secure on a daily basis. Now, the platforms have also increased. It's no longer just your corporate network. You have to manage your on premise data, you have to monitor your cloud data. With each new technological advancement, your IT ecosystem is going to get more and more complex, and it'll absolutely become tedious, if not impossible, to secure it all. Therefore, to effectively manage these user identities, their access rights, you need an IGA solution in your organization, and it's crucial to give the right level of access so that neither the user experience is affected nor does it affect the security levels of organizations, because this can easily make you more vulnerable to cyber attacks and breaches. And at this stage, when we are facing the huge recession, there's the famous resignation, all of it happening, we don't want our organization to face more troubles. Now that we know what is IGA and why we need it, let's talk about how to deploy an IGA solution, or how does an IGA solution work in the first place. So, as the name tells you, IGA is actually a combination of identity governance and identity administration. So, the identity governance part is technically all about improved visibility into user access or segregation of duties or role based access or workflow management. And on the other hand, identity administration is all about provisioning, deprovisioning, user account management, credentials management, privilege management, etc. Since IGA is all of these extensive capabilities and features put together in one security model, I think it's a no brainer that it's one solution that can help you manage your identities and their access very effectively. As I told you in the beginning of the webinar, I'm going to give you 5 IGA essentials that you need to deploy in your organization right away. And all of these 5 essentials are also a part of Gartner recommended core capabilities for IGA. The first one being identity lifecycle management, role based access, privileged access management, workflow management, reporting, and analytics. Now, as we start discussing the 5 IGA essentials one by one, in parallel, I'll also tell you how Manage Engine's AD Manager Plus can help you deploy these IGA capabilities in your organization. The first and one of the most important IGA essential is identity lifecycle management. If I were to define this, identity lifecycle management is just the process of managing a user account throughout its entire lifecycle. So, this means that right when an employee joins your organization, you will be creating a user account for them. Then, right from then on till the time the employee resigns or is simply no longer a part of your organization, the whole journey is managed under identity lifecycle management. Now, this is a continuous process and it's an ongoing process. It begins with providing the new joining employee with all the necessary access and privileges that they require to perform their everyday job function, and with time it may also include revoking these accesses that are no longer needed, or if the person gains more responsibilities, if they have a designation change, or if they go to a different department, their access privileges can be elevated or changed depending on which department they move to. And to help you with that, Manage Engine's AD Manager Plus has all the necessary identity lifecycle management capabilities that will, help you lighten the ticket load on your IT administrators in practically no time. So, AD Manager Plus has a user lifecycle management feature. It's designed to help your system administrators with managing the daily tasks of creating new employee identities or revoking the old ones, or managing the changes in these existing identities, and so on and so forth. Now, everything from provisioning to deprovisioning can be done from a single console. You can also create and modify users in bulk, and you can configure the general attributes as well. The entire process of enabling, disabling, or deleting inactive user accounts can be handled very easily, because all of this process can be automated. These routine tasks like bulk user account management, all of these processes can be automated with defined automation policies. Now, I'll give you a quick look at a couple of features of AD Manager Plus and how the console looks like. This is AD Manager Plus console, and this feature helps you create multiple Active Directory users in one go. All you have to do is import a CSV file that contains the required user details. And as opposed to the native Active Directory tools, AD Manager Plus also helps you create AD users in bulk without using PowerShell scripts. The next feature that we'll be talking about is creating bulk groups. Now, managing Active Directory group happens to be like a huge venture of time and efforts for most Active Directory administrators, because the native Active Directory tool allows you to configure groups and assign the various group attributes for only one group at a time. But the group management module of AD Manager Plus, makes this complicated task of managing Active Directory groups very easy and very hassle free. It has three important aspects: it has bulk group creation, bulk group modification, and Active Directory reports based on group management. As you can see, this is the console and how you can create bulk groups from AD Manager Plus. Now, say you have a little complex situation, and let's assume that the IT administrator has to move all the inactive users to a separate at the end of every month, or retain them for a period of 150 days and then delete them. Now, all of this can be configured in AD Manager Plus with its automation policies. And since the process involves a couple of sequence of tasks, we shall first configure the automation policy and then apply it to an automation. So, this is a very, very important feature, because a lot of times while we are doing all of this manually, we might make mistakes, and that again can be like a huge hassle. Instead, if we can automate the entire process, it'll be more error free and less time consuming. Now, the next IGA essential that we'll talk about is the role based access control. In very simple terms, if I were to tell you, role based access is just the method of providing access controls and rights to user identities based on their job roles in an organization. So, if I am from the product team, I'll have access to a separate set of resources. If you are from the development team or the marketing team, you will be allowed to access a set of resources, and these accesses will be provided automatically because our identities will be tied and closely integrated with the role we serve in the organization. Now, deploying role based access in your organization will give you two major advantages. One, it helps you have smooth operation of every employee as they receive all the necessary access rights and credentials by default, which also means that an employee can be productive right from the day one of joining the organization, and there is no need for them to go around asking for access rights, as everything that is deemed to be necessary by the access control policies of the organization is already provided to them by default. The second advantage of deploying role based access is that it ensures that every user can access only the information that they absolutely need. This means that they are prevented from accessing any organizational data or resources that doesn't pertain to them, and this will result in increased security and defined authorized access to the organizational resources. Now, if you see from a holistic level, any employee's role in an organization is what determines the permissions that they need to perform their job. So, this in turn will make sure that lower level employees, that is, the ones who don't have enough rights to access privileged data, cannot access the organization's sensitive information or perform any business level tasks. Now, you'll also be able to secure your sensitive data this way. There'll be improved efficiency, as every time there's a new employee, they easily get their access rights by default. You can also add or change or delete roles very easily. And since privacy laws nowadays demand organizations to have role based access control policies in place, This will also help you meet the compliance requirements. ManageEngine's AD Manager Plus has role-based access capabilities, so you can, create, modify, or delete new roles as per your organizational requirements. And these templates for individual roles, they have predefined settings for the user, members access rights, their emails, or their group memberships. You can define all the necessary attributes for a particular role and then apply the same for every member who joins henceforth for that job role or for that department. And these role based templates can be easily saved, they can be deployed for multiple users, all in a single click. Now, with this, what happens is that every time an employee joins your organization, your IT administrator need not be burdened with modifying their group or modifying the access requirements. So, you can simply create as many role based templates as required based on the number of roles in your organizations or departments in your organizations. And whenever new employees join the organization, just apply the appropriate template and all the necessary privileges will be automatically assigned to the new accounts. This is how the feature works. It has a user creation template that will allow you to configure multiple or all the necessary attributes in a single step. So just apply these templates during the user account creation process, and all the attributes of the new user accounts will automatically take the values of the corresponding attributes in the templates. It has a great customization component, which is the drag and drop feature. This makes it very helpful to make any attribute mandatory or hidden or read only. As you can see, this particular feature of AD Manager Plus, which is the user creation template, it is also a huge time saver. Another really cool feature of AD Manager Plus, it'll help desk technicians, help administrators in executing, simple Active Directory tasks which do not need the expertise of the administrators. So the help desk technicians, they'll give enough time to the administrators to focus on more difficult or more mission critical tasks. And as and when needed, the help desk technicians configured in AD Manager Plus can be modified to suit the needs of your organization. You can add or remove roles assigned to them. You can modify their administrative boundaries. You can assign or remove account creation and modification templates delegated to them, so on and so forth. Now, the next IGA essential is about privileged access management. By now, I'm sure all of you are well aware that the primary target of any attacker will always be the privileged members in your organization, because they have access to your crown jewels, they have access to your business critical resources. So if the attacker can crack their identity, if they can hack into their system, they will have access to all your business critical resources. Therefore, your safest bet is to ensure secure access in the first place for the privileged members of your organization. Preventing the unauthorized people from accessing the most important resources of your organization, this can get your first line of defense against potential threat ready, and this will also prevent the attack from even occurring in the first place. So privileged access management, which we also, colloquially call it PAM, it's a component of IGA. It deals with managing the privileged users of the organization. Now, usually these will be the C level executive, the managing directors, VPs, and these privileged users will usually have elevated access already to sensitive data or resources, as I just mentioned. And in addition to access, these users will also be equipped with the rights to perform certain administrative or definitive actions. And the core idea of PAM is to create a secure environment for the most sensitive organizational data. And to achieve this, PAM separates the important data and make sure that the access is provided only to the privileged members and their access is periodically monitored. So, for all the discussed PAM capabilities, AD Manager Plus is a great fit with its various reports and access control functionalities. It'll help you identify the number of users with access to privileged accounts, and it'll also provide you a detailed report of what and all they can access as well. So, you can temporarily elevate the access rights of a user or revoke them automatically once the user does not require those permissions. It will also help you identify improper or any accidental or even malicious changes made by privileged users or administrators. You can audit their activities or monitor their activities. One of the most important processes that must be monitored to keep privilege access in check is group memberships. So, what happens is by default, users are part of different groups and inherent rights from being the group member. So, it becomes crucial to track the scope of such groups. AD Manager Plus will actually give you that visibility, and you can see that which group have members and which don't, if there are nested members. And often what happens is each group has certain stray users who would have gained access to groups by way of inheritance, and such users profile must be assessed, and if their membership is not required, it must be revoked immediately. Now, this is how you can audit the management and administrative actions performed by users using AD Manager Plus. It has built-in GUI based reports, so you can create accounts for help desk technicians quickly by assigning the desired roles to a group as a whole, or allow users to raise requests to add technicians to groups using the workflow structure of AD Manager Plus. And then you can see all the actions that have been performed by these help desk technicians. You can see what action was performed on which object and the time the action was performed on. You can filter these results based on the time and the actions. Also, in one console, you can view all the permissions assigned to them and you can revoke them. You can establish an audit trail to identify administrators performing any changes on help desk technicians and see which roles were modified. This way, you can protect important files and groups that contain business critical information and prevent any accidental or intentional misuse of privileged resources by being vigilant about users' access rights. At the same time, you can also elevate the access rights of only trusted users and check on them regularly using AD Manager Plus. So, managing AD groups efficiently is like a huge challenge, as we all know, but you can do it very easily with AD Manager Plus. You can create, modify, or delete multiple groups at once. You can provide special privileges to a group of users all in a single click, and you can add users to groups based on requests raised using AD Manager Plus workflow capabilities. And you can remove members from groups automatically after a certain amount of time. And the reports, of course, they are like a lifesaver. You can have reports on various aspects of your groups, like security and distribution groups, and they'll provide details on the scope of groups and which groups have members and which don't, nested members, etc., as I just spoke about. And if needed, you can revoke their membership all from within the reports. This is a very, very important feature when it comes to privileged access management to manage and monitor permissions associated to files and folders. This is a very important capability. So, AD Manager Plus will help you discover who has access to resources in your environment and at what level. You can assign or modify NTFS and share permissions in bulk using AD Manager Plus. If needed, you can elevate permissions for a user account and revoke them automatically when the user no longer requires those access rights. Not only that, you can also monitor folder permissions by reporting on the permissions users and groups have over shares and folders in your Active Directory environment, or shares and their permissions in specified servers and the folders protected from inheriting permissions. So all of this can be managed from a single console, which is AD Manager Plus, to manage privileged access, or to ensure that the privileged members of your organization have access to resources which are monitored and carefully assessed periodically. Moving on, our next IGA essential capability is workflow management. So, workflow is basically just deployment of pre decided flow of approval from the lower access users to the higher access ones. So, basically, what an IT administrator does is that they define the approval workflow for each of the activities performed by the technicians. This can include the very common low risk actions like approvals to high risk ones, like providing a new user with additional access to privileged resources to enable easier flow of approval and reduce the friction. Most importantly, the IT administrator defines the approval workflow for all the activities like account creation or account modification, password resets. And once all of this is established and approved, all processes falling under the category go through the previously defined flow of approval. When designed and implemented in the right way, these workflows can actually help in operation efficiencies, or they can reduce manual efforts, and they are easier to audit. They also decrease the cost in the long run. So when workflows are automated, it becomes very, very simple and easy for even new users to request access to the systems, and as and when they need it for doing their work. Now, let's see what AD Manager Plus can deliver in terms of workflow management. So, AD Manager Plus, it can help you create a defined standard workflow structure for all your organizational tasks. You can customize this flow as per your organizational requirements, and the workflow can involve up to four levels of what we call the workflow agents. This refers to all the users involved in the various steps of the workflow process. They are categorized as requesters, reviewers, approvers, and executors in AD Manager Plus. So, using these clearly defined workflow roles, you can create a very simple and well defined workflow for any task. And this clear structuring of workflow will help you remove all possible role conflicts that may occur during your daily tasks. It's very simple. Once predefined, any sort of communication or information can only flow through these intended recipients, and AD Manager Plus gives you a complete summary of any predefined task. This will also include the information like time at which the execution of the task began, who is the requester of the task, who are the workflow agents assigned, and what is the current workflow status. So, Daily Manager Plus will keep an electronic document of all tasks executed and accesses that occurred, so it'll help you stay very vigilant on your compliance journey in the long run. Not only that, let me tell you that with AD Manager Plus assigning capabilities, you can set conditional rules to allocate technicians or other resources based on a task's priority. So you can enable automated notification to the workflow agents regarding the requests that have been raised or reviewed or approved. The linear workflow sets the whole process of assigning and prioritizing tasks in a perfect place. And since the defined workflow cannot be bypassed, AD Manager Plus also ensure high security and transparency within your organization. So this is how a business workflow is created. The Manager Plus is actually built on the premise that much of an IT administrator's burden can be reduced by instating a workflow requester process. So this means that the requesters, instead of contacting the administrators via email or service ticket, can directly raise a request themselves. And since requesters have already mentioned their own requirements, a workflow system can help make sure that the requests are processed free of errors. Administrators, all they have to do is now approve these requests, and this will also prevent any duplication of work by requesters or administrators. After implementing business workflow in AD Manager Plus, you can, very easily do these tasks: user account provisioning, deprovisioning, group membership management, and all of this while saving time for other more critical projects. The next feature that we'll be discussing is reporting and analytics. So, as an organization becomes large in size, the number of user identities also keep increasing on a continuous basis. With increased number of users, the data generated is also exceptionally high. To identify, monitor, analyze such large amounts of data, all of this become an absolute necessity. So reports can help IT administrators to select, view, or analyze and act upon just the data that they need. There are additional features like customizable reports and creative visualizations that can help them take quick actions with the loads of data that they receive on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, when it comes to reporting, it is just very necessary to have an interactive dashboard which provides a bird's eye view of all the major activities that need to be periodically reviewed. In terms of reporting and analytics, AD Manager Plus has a highly functional, customizable report generating capability. So, IT administrators can easily view all the essential information that they need in a very user friendly way. So, it has about 200 reports, and these reports can summarize and generate all types of reports varying from information regarding users, groups, group memberships, user logon, passwords, of course, access rights, definitely, and so on. Now, if you use the report generating capability or reporting capability, your IT administrators can also monitor and analyze crucial details about user behavior, like their real last logon times, who are the inactive Active Directory users, and the complete list of group members, nested group members, permission, deleted user accounts, and many such other details. The user interface is also extremely user friendly. I'll just give you a look in a minute. And even the non IT users can generate and view these reports very easily. So, AD Manager Plus is an entirely GUI based reporting software, and using this, you can also generate reports on Exchange Online and Exchange Server, M365, Google Workspace. All these actions can be performed from just a single console. You can just export the reports in various formats like CSV, Excel, based on your requirements, and use these during compliance for SOX or HIPAA or GDPR, etc. So, this is how the console looks. This particular feature will actually help you track all dormant or unused Active Directory user accounts based on their true last logon time. To generate this report, all that you have to do is specify the time period for which you wish to check the logon activity, and also the container, like the domain or the OU, from which you wish to fetch the inactive users, and the tool will display all the users who have been inactive for the specified time period, along with details such as their last logon time or account status. And once you generate the inactive users or computers report, you can take actions right from within the report using the management options located right within the report. Now, on a day to day basis, organizations need to know of major security threats like insider attack or malicious logons. Warding off such potential attackers can go a long way while you're trying to secure your organization. Now, to achieve this, a few things need to be aligned. You must have a complete understanding of the permissions assigned to your users and groups in Windows Active Directory, and this is exactly what AD Manager Plus does. You can have a very detailed report on all objects, users and groups, computers, folders, service objects, along with the permissions and the type of permissions they have for each object. This will actually help you analyze and manage the permissions of AD users and groups and ensure that they perform only the operations that they are supposed to perform. Now, configuring a strong password policy is crucial. We all know that because it serves as the first line of defense against intruders. But lack of clarity in monitoring the numerous passwords and password policies will actually make Active Directory management very difficult. So, Windows Active Directory allows you to design a password policy that prevents malicious events, but it fails in providing ready made information that can help Active Directory administrators in very easy or error free password management. The recent logon failures report of AD Manager Plus, it allows administrators to view all the Active Directory users whose login failed because of a bad password. Now, once we know this information, it's very easy for us to make sure that these users are using passwords that are strong or stringent and very difficult to break through. Now, with hybrid workforce becoming the new normal, we can very well say that we'll continuously adopt SaaS applications or cloud technologies. And with that said, it is important for IT administrators to ensure that the user identities of their organization are secured irrespective of where they choose to work from. And to achieve this, you need to start looking into deploying these five essential IGA capabilities that we just discussed today. And these are also rightly aligned with Gartner's recommendations for the core capabilities of IGA, and Manage Engine's AD Manager Plus can help you do the same with ease. Thank you for joining today's webinar, and I'm really glad that I was able to share these five IJ essential capabilities with you. I can help you with deploying these five IJ essentials, and even if you want a demonstration of how AD Manager Plus can do the job for you, please feel free to write to me for a consultation. My email ID is on the screen. It's debs@manageengine.com. Thank you again for joining today, and I would really love to have a conversation with you. So please hit me up. Thank you again. Have a very good day.